Hi and welcome to another episode of In the Studio with the Thrillseekers. What we're going to do this time is actually look at some of the equipment I'm using on stage now for DJing. The last thing we did was take a look behind the scenes at my Live Extreme equipment, which was essentially Ableton Live with my laptop, my keyboards, and at the centre of it all, the Akai APC40. As I've been doing more gigs over the past couple of years, we're starting to see more DJs DJing from a laptop, and I've often wondered, well, what's all the fuss about? Should we take a look at maybe the possibilities? So because I had all the equipment anyway, I thought, well, I would give it a go, and basically started out DJing with Ableton. And after a couple of months, I was hitting a few little hiccups and a few hitches, not just with Ableton itself, but also with sound cards and hardware related issues, and spent about, I don't know, maybe 3 months finding the ultimate setup for DJing from a laptop. So what I want to do is kind of just cut out all the hard work for you guys and show you what's working, how it works, what the benefits are, and also give you the software to, well, not the software, but give you the mappings to use with Traktor yourself if you want to try it out yourselves at home. Okay, so here we are inside Traktor. What we're going to do first is look at the arrangement of the folders, or if you like, the virtual record box that we have on the laptop. Basically, I mix harmonically, so I have all my tracks arranged by key into folders, and I have a bank select button which allows me to go up and down the different keys. So if I go to E flat, I can then use my scroll wheel to go through the tracks in that folder or that playlist, and basically choose a track. Once I've chosen the track, I need to tell Traktor to load it into deck 1, 2, 3 or 4. So that's what these 4 buttons do here basically. So I'm going to load into deck 1. So looking at the controls themselves, a lot of it is based on this grid here, and it looks ridiculously intimidating, but actually it's really quite simple once you know what's going on. If we break it down into quarters, the top quarter here are the controls for the first deck, and then the second quarter is for deck 2 and deck 3 and deck 4. I'll just go along what each of the buttons are for. So the flashing red button is the play, just like you would find on any CD player basically. So that's start and stop, fairly self-explanatory. The fader is also down here for the first channel or the first CD. Next to play we have the cue button, so that's for queuing up to the start of the track. After play, this has been assigned to loop on and off, which we'll come back to a little bit later. And then the 4 red buttons beneath those are my cue buttons. And what I really love about Traktor is the ability to have up to 8 cue markers within a track. So depending on what kind of style of music you play, you may want to have a cue that tells you when the vocals start, when the breakdown starts, when the drums finish, when the bass, or whatever. But I'll tell you how I use them. So basically 1 to 4 are mapped to these 4 buttons here, and the first one is always the start of the track. So I can just jump to that cue marker straight away. Cue number 2 is when the bass comes in, which kind of for me is 9 times out of 10 is where the track will be actually in the mix. So there we go, cue marker number 2. Another point in the track I may need to jump to at any time in a mix is the end. So maybe a track's not working, or you only want to play half of the track and you want to be able to mix out from the end of the track that's playing. I can jump straight to a musically relevant point towards the end of the track. Doing that with traditional CDs can be done, but it's a little bit trickier, and it's not consistent across all your CDs unless you're being very, very, very organised. But I have a consistent method for all my tracks now within Traktor. So that's the first 4 cue markers. There are actually, you can have more than that. So for example, cue marker number 6, which I can see on the screen, for me always tells me that if I'm coming out of a second breakdown and there's an extra 1 or 2 bars that the producer's kind of thrown into the mix, just to make the track more interesting. The cue marker 6 shows me visually where the track kicks off and where I need to mix the next track from. Cue marker 7 is always the outro of the track for me, so I know I need to be kind of in the mix at that point, and again a great visual reference as to how the track is laid out. Okay, so that's kind of the buttons covered. Coming down the APC40, there are more buttons, and just like on a traditional mixer, the buttons above the faders, that's my headphone cue. So if I want to monitor any channel, I basically press these buttons here. And the top buttons here are for basically routing any deck to effect number 1. So that's that covered. As we come along to this section of the APC, this is basically for EQ and for kill switches. What I've done with Traktor, I wasn't too wild about the built-in EQ, and actually preferred the filters which come with the effects. So what I've done is, instead of controlling the EQ bass with this fader, I'm actually controlling a high pass filter in effect number C or 3. And for deck 2, I'm actually controlling a high pass filter in effect 4, which is on deck B. So it's just like having EQ, but I actually prefer the sound of the filters. So there's a high pass filter for controlling the bass frequencies, and a low pass filter for controlling the high frequencies. So it works just like a normal EQ, but it just sounds slightly better to my ears. As we come down, let me have a look. There's so many things going on, I've got to think myself how it's all laid out. So down at the bottom section here, we have basically control for the effects. So I can switch through the types of effects I have access to, and then these knobs and buttons are laid out exactly the same way as the effect parameters. So if you do want to try Traktor out and you do have an APC, you want to try it out, then you can do. So that's how it's all laid out. So let's have a look at what it can actually do. Okay, so what we're going to do now is layer several tracks together and show how that all kind of works on the APC. So like I was saying earlier, for DJing, the fun for me now really is being more creative on stage and kind of taking DJing to not the next level as such, because people have been mixing with 3-4 decks for a long time, but with the APC it just allows a little bit more flexibility, and because tracks are kind of pre-synced, it gives you the time and the confidence on stage to really mess about and kind of know that it's going to sound pretty good and pretty tight. So just as a very quick example of what I'm talking about, on deck 3 we have a loop here, so I've just taken a quick loop so I can actually loop that round now. So whilst that's playing away on deck 3, I can mess about with the effects. So for example, yes, slicer will sound like this. We could also have that going through a delay as well, for example, and then we can freeze the delay and then carry on. Just going back to the 2 tracks that we already have loaded up. So we can be messing about live on stage. So that can be playing along. What I could also be doing at the same time is loading another track into deck 4. Let's have a look what we've got down here. What is the track I'm looking for? Oh, okay, here we go. I know we've got a quick cue point on here. Here we go, right. So it's almost like playing an instrument. And at the same time we could be messing around with the effects. So I'll just stop that. So that, hopefully that gives you some kind of idea of what you can do with 2, 3 or 4 decks. Obviously you can be as creative as you want, and the more time you go into preparing the cue points, the more options and fun you're going to have on stage. So yeah, check out the website, the thrillseekers.co.uk, and if you go to the music forum, there will be a link to download everything we've talked about. So okay, check out the next episode, which will be all about this thing here, which is lots more fun. Okay, bye.